Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to introduce to you some ideas that I've recently done some research on and has helped me improve some of my Minecraft building, and I hope it will help you too. This, of course, is patterns. Now, you may know what a pattern is, and it's quite a well-known concept, but knowing the ins and outs and how you can manipulate patterns can really help you improve your art or, in my case, Minecraft building skills. So let's get started. What are patterns? They're just a repetition of design elements working with each other in a basic form. And that's probably the simplest definition you'll get. However, there are many different types of patterns and different ways you can use it to draw people's eyes in or away from your builds or art. So over here, I've prepared a few sections with different types of patterns. Now, the element of this pattern is, of course, the purple triangle, or as close as we can get to a triangle. And although the element stays the same, in these 4 sections, they're all kind of presented in a different way, which makes them different types of patterns. So in this first one, we see a regular pattern, which is of course just the design element itself, just repeated side by side, next to each other, the exact same thing, just consistent. Now this can be a striped pattern, a polka, it can be anything really, as long as it just repeats consistently, which is different to this one. Although it's the exact same design element, there is a change very different to this. And that is, of course, it is a mirrored pattern, which simply means it's facing each other. So the design element has rotated in a way that it's facing the original element. Like I have just put a mirror here, and this is the reflection that we have gotten. So you can see why it's called a mirrored pattern. Now this over here, we have again the same element of design, but it's presented in a different way. And that's, of course, it's facing that way. And then it's facing that way. Now what does this mean? It is a rotational pattern. It's the same design element as we saw in the first one with the regular pattern and the mirrored pattern, but it's been rotated each time it's moved. And that's what makes it a rotating pattern. Now this last one is the exact same as the regular pattern, however all of the elements are offset by a few blocks, and that makes it a drop pattern. Now this just means it's kind of put into a zigzaggy line with each element just offset by a few blocks, up or down. And that's what makes this a drop pattern. Now you may have used a few of these types of patterns before without even realizing, because that's what patterns are, they're just an element of design, so often you'll use these without even realizing. Now, however, with these 4 examples, we have only discussed how the element itself is placed and not the change of the element. So over here I've got a couple more examples, which is the change of the element. We have a regular pattern, once more, just like the first one, and an irregular pattern. These can also be known as man-made or natural. Now these terms simply just mean how consistent the element is repeated. So with the regular pattern or man-made pattern, it strives for perfection. It has the exact same consistency, and we can predict what's going to happen next with this one. However, with the irregular pattern, it is still a striped pattern, but we can't predict what's going to happen next. We don't know whether it's going to be red or it's going to be purple, which is why it makes it an irregular pattern. Now I have a couple more examples of this regular or man-made and irregular or natural. So over here I have made 2 flower fields. They both have the same pattern, which is of course the color and line coordination we've got here with 3 different types of flowers. But they look vastly different just with how they're presented. Now this is the irregular or natural, and you can use this in builds that would be more nature friendly, so like a forest or something like that. Now this one, which is the man-made or regular, wouldn't make much sense in a forest. It looks too coordinated, it's too predictable, we know what's going to happen. It doesn't look like it just grew there on its own. However, you can use this for cities or gardens, somewhere where it would make sense to have a consistent and coordinated pattern, and neither of which are worse than the other, they're just able to be used in different ways. Now I have one more example of a type of pattern, and that is just over here, and it's called the radiating pattern. You can kind of see why it's called the radiating pattern, and that's of course we have a focus point in the middle here, and it radiates out. Oh, I'm sorry, these colours are a little bit harsh on the eyes. But this pattern is another simple striped pattern in as close as a circle as we can get in Minecraft, and it just beams outwards. Now what can this radiating pattern do for your build or art style? it can just draw focus into a section that you want to draw focus on. I'm going to stop zooming in because it's hurting my eyes. So if you wanted the viewer's eye drawn to a certain part of your build, or drawn away from it even, you can use a radiating pattern to do just that. Now, after learning all of these elements, or just realizing that they exist, I wanted to do a build of my own and see what kind of patterns I could come up with, and I'll show you the results. Over here, I have made a very simple build. It's just a little wooden house. However, there are so many patterns that I was able to coordinate. For example, we have the path, which is technically an irregular pattern. It's the repetition of two different types, but it's not in an even manner. We have again another irregular or natural pattern we've got here with the lilies and the ferns, just kind of drawing you into the door, but we do also have some regular patterns, which is the bamboo and spruce trapdoor coordination here. And that goes all the way around the build. And by the way, let me just say, this is such a good element of building. I need to use this more often. They connect so nicely together. But anyway, we have that going all the way around the building. We have a simple kind of radiating pattern. I guess it's more of an irregular pattern as it doesn't really circle or spiral outwards, but it does draw your eye to the middle because we've got the two different types of white flowers and it draws your eye to the middle, which is of course the yellow flower. And the whole build itself is a pattern in its own because I've got the stripped oak wood and the spruce wood lines here, or stripes, which is also technically an irregular pattern because it doesn't have an even amount of blocks in each one. It's just the top one that's a little bit off. And of course the roof is a bit off with that. But you can see that I've used a few patterns, and even if I didn't intend on it, this build is still an accumulation of different patterns, which is just cool to think about. But anyway, that's about all I have time for, and I hope you learnt something. I hope this realization of the different patterns and how you can manipulate them for your own builds or artworks has helped you. If you have any questions about any of them, feel free to comment them down and I'll do my best to explain them, or I'll try and find some word that could explain it better than I could. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye!